They say turning your yearly income into your monthly income is impossible, the dream of daydreamers and fools, but I am here to tell you that not only is it possible, it is necessary if you wish to command life rather than merely survive it. You must understand something most men never grasp. Wealth is not an accident. It is an architecture. It is not stumbled upon. It is constructed brick by brick, deal by deal, choice by choice. When I began, I was not a Rockefeller. I was a boy with little more than discipline, a ledger, and the hunger to rise. I worked for pennies, but I never thought in pennies. I thought in enterprises. While others counted coins in their pocket, I calculated streams that would one day flow into rivers, and when those rivers grew, they became oceans. Imagine this: while most men labor a full year for a modest sum, you design your life so that in 1 month you produce the same result. The secret is not in working harder, but in working with leverage. One man with a shovel may dig for decades. Another man with machines and men at his command can move mountains in days. Which would you rather be? The laborer or the commander of systems? The first step is to shift the mind. Until you think beyond wages, you are trapped. A man who trades his time for money will never break free. Time is limited. Leverage is not. You must learn to position capital, relationships, and systems to do the labor while you direct the orchestra. Just as I built Standard Oil, not by lifting barrels but by designing an empire of efficiency. Most people laugh at visionaries. They say, be realistic, work hard, save a little, and perhaps one day you will retire. But let me ask you, what kind of victory is that? To wait until your body is weak, your passions faded, and only then to taste freedom. That is not living. That is dying in slow motion. Wealth is not meant to be chased at the end of life. It is to be commanded in the prime of it. Consider this: every enterprise you see around you was built by someone who refused to be ordinary. Men who could have accepted a modest wage but instead sought ownership. Farmers sell crops. Magnates own the railroads that carry them. Laborers pump oil. I built the pipelines that transported it. Understand this distinction, and you will unlock the path to multiplying your income. If you wish to transform your yearly income into your monthly income, you must begin by thinking like a capitalist, not a laborer. Ask yourself, what can I own? What can I control? Where can I build a system that works while I rest? Wealth comes not from being everywhere at once, but from placing yourself where money never stops moving. Do not be deceived by the noise of the world. People will tell you to be content, to be grateful, to live modestly, and yes, gratitude is a virtue, but complacency is a prison. You can give thanks for what you have while still reaching for more. In fact, to stop reaching is to dishonor the very potential you were given. The strongest men I knew were not those with the widest shoulders, but those with the clearest vision. They endured criticism, skepticism, and ridicule, but they pressed forward, guided by a quiet certainty that one day the world would bow to their persistence, and it did. So I ask you, are you ready to think differently? Are you ready to abandon the smallness of trading time for survival, and instead step into the largeness of commanding systems for wealth? If so, this is your beginning, the first brick in the foundation of turning your yearly income into your monthly income. Do not let the critics sway you. They laughed at me too. They always laugh until they can no longer deny the empire standing before them. This is where the journey begins. The mind must be lifted from the dust of wages to the air of ownership. Once you grasp this, the path reveals itself, because money is not the true wealth, control is. And when you control the flow of money, you will see what I saw, a life where 1 month surpasses what others bleed for in a year. ChatGPT said, most men believe that wealth is a matter of luck. They look at those who have risen and say, he was fortunate, he was in the right place at the right time. That is the language of the defeated. I tell you the truth. Fortune is nothing more than preparation meeting opportunity. Luck favors those who have constructed themselves into magnets for it, and the way you construct yourself is through discipline, foresight, and leverage. When I first began in business, I was not the strongest, nor the loudest. I was, however, the most disciplined. While other men squandered their wages on trivialities, I saved mine. Every cent had a purpose. Money, to me was not for pleasure but for power. A dollar not invested was a dollar wasted, and because of this, when the opportunity of oil presented itself, I was ready. Most men saw only barrels. I saw an empire. That difference of vision is what separates the man who earns his yearly wage with sweat and the man who transforms that yearly wage into a monthly income without lifting a finger. Leverage begins with capital, but it does not end there. Capital itself is a tool. The true genius is to make every dollar work harder than a man ever could. A man can labor 10 hours a day. A dollar can labor 24 hours, 7 days a week if properly employed. Do you understand what this means? It means your money must never be idle. While you rest, it must work. While you dream, it must build. While you are silent, it must speak in the marketplace on your behalf. But money alone is not leverage. Systems are leverage. Think of the railroads. Before them, goods moved slowly, carried by wagons and horses. The man who sold his produce at market earned little, for the cost of transport was too high. But with railroads, a single shipment could cross states, cities, nations. That is leverage. The same produce, the same effort, multiplied in return because the system carrying it was greater. Ask yourself, what rails can you build in your life? What systems can carry your work farther than your own two hands ever could? Then there are men. People often speak of self-reliance as if it means doing everything alone. Nonsense. No empire is built by one man's hand. It is built by one man's vision, and the labor of thousands who believe in it or depend on it. I did not refine every barrel of oil myself. I did not hammer every nail into the pipelines. I directed, I orchestrated, I built a machine of men and methods that multiplied my reach. If you wish to earn in 1 month what others bleed for in 12, you must learn to lead men, to align them, to inspire or compel them toward the vision. Now let me speak of time. Time is the only true currency. Once spent, it is gone forever. The laborer trades his hours for coins and believes he has earned a living, but the truth is, he has sold the most precious thing he owns. I refused to make that trade. My hours I invested only in creating machines of wealth that would outlast me. Even in my absence, the oil flowed, the profits grew, the systems turned. That is why my income multiplied, while others dwindled with age. You must stop thinking of yourself as a worker of time, and begin seeing yourself as an architect of timeless systems. Most men fear risk. They cling to their wages as a drowning man clings to driftwood. But I tell you, security lies not in wages but in ownership. A wage can be taken away in an instant, but an enterprise once constructed outlives storms, recessions, even war. When I invested in refineries, people thought I was reckless. Oil was unstable, the markets uncertain, but I knew that while others feared, systems could be built, and when others hesitated, I advanced. The result was dominant. If you wish to grow beyond the yearly wage, you must accept that the price of greatness is risk, calculated and controlled, but risk nonetheless. Critics will mock you. They mocked me every step. They said I was too ambitious, too ruthless, too unrelenting. But notice this. The same critics bought my kerosene, rode my rail lines, and depended on the very empire they condemned. The world always resists the man who rises until they can no longer deny the necessity of his vision. Do not let the noise of the small-minded drag you down to their level. Let your success silence them. Remember this always. Wealth is not about the money itself. It is about control. Control of your time, control of your choices, control of your destiny. A man who earns a yearly income must bow to circumstance, to employers, to the limits of his hours. A man who multiplies that income into a monthly flow bows to no one. His wealth bends the world to him. So how do you begin? You begin by asking yourself, where can I build leverage today? Where can I replace my hands with systems, my hours with capital, my limitations with networks of men and machines? Every great fortune began with a single decision to step out of the prison of wages. Most men never take that step. That is why most men remain small. But if you take it, if you dare to see as I saw, you will find the world bending under your command, and soon, what once seemed like a yearly dream will become a monthly reality. This is the way. The path is not easy. It demands vision, discipline, and resilience. But those who walk it discover what the timid never will, that wealth is not scarce. It is abundant for the man who knows how to harness it. And when you finally see your income multiplied, When 1 month surpasses the labor of 12, you will understand why I tell you this. The true power was never in money, but in the mastery of the mind that directs it. When I was young, I kept a small ledger book. In it, I recorded every cent earned, every cent spent, every cent saved. Some laughed at me for being so meticulous, but I knew that the man who cannot manage a dollar will never manage a fortune. That little ledger was not about pennies, it was about principles. Principles that, when magnified, turned into millions. You cannot hope to turn your yearly income into your monthly income if you live without order, without discipline, without absolute clarity over the flow of money in and out of your hands. Most people live in chaos. They earn, they spend, they hope something is left. That is not wealth. That is gambling. The wealthy treat every cent as a soldier, and every soldier must have its marching orders. Some are sent to guard the fort, savings. Some are sent into battle, investments. Some are sent to expand territory, new ventures, and all of them are accounted for. I never allowed money to drift about aimlessly, and that is why my fortune grew while others squandered theirs. You must understand this. Wealth is mathematics multiplied by discipline. It is not magic. It is not mystery. If you wish to elevate your income from yearly to monthly, you must treat money as capital, not comfort. Ask yourself this: when a dollar enters your hand, does it remain to work for you, or does it vanish into indulgence? The poor man consumes, the rich man deploys, and over time, deployment conquers consumption. Now let us speak of compounding. Most people cannot see beyond the day, the week, the month, but the powerful see years, decades, lifetimes. A small sum, reinvested consistently, multiplies into mountains. This was the secret that built Standard Oil into a colossus. Every profit was not consumed, it was reinvested. Refineries built more refineries. Pipelines financed more pipelines. Profits generated new profits. It was a snowball that, once rolling, became unstoppable. That is the kind of mechanism you must construct if you wish to elevate your income to heights that seem impossible to ordinary men. There is another truth I must impress upon you. Details matter. The careless lose fortunes in small leagues. I negotiated ruthlessly, not because I was greedy, but because I understood that every wasted cent stolen from expansion. I watched expenses like a hawk, squeezed inefficiency from every corner, demanded order where others tolerated chaos. Some called me miserly, I called it mastery, and mastery is what you must develop if you wish to compress a year's worth of income into a single month. But do not mistake thrift for timidity. Many men save all their lives yet never grow rich. Why? Because they confuse hoarding with investing. They protect their pennies so tightly that they never allow them to multiply. I saved fiercely, but only to prepare for deployment. The soldier who never leaves the barracks will never conquer territory. You must know when to send your money into battle, when to risk it for greater gain. Without that boldness, your savings remain small, and small savings never built empires. Risk, of course, must be calculated. Never gamble, never speculate blindly. I studied markets. I analyzed opportunities. I moved with precision. The difference between a fool and a magnate is not that one risks and the other does not. It is that one risks with calculation and the other with impulse. If you wish to build wealth at a pace that seems unnatural, you must learn to think 3 moves ahead, as in each investment must serve a larger strategy, not just immediate gain. Consider the role of patience. Men are so desperate for quick victories that they sabotage themselves. They pluck the fruit before it ripens, sell the asset before it matures, abandon the plan before it compounds. Patience is a weapon. I endured years of criticism, years of slow building, years of relentless discipline, before the floodgates of wealth opened. Most men quit long before. That is why most men never see their yearly income grow into their monthly. The impatient are devoured by time. The patient command it. I also tell you this: your environment matters. Surround yourself with men of small thinking and your own thinking will shrink. Surround yourself with visionaries, and your ambition will expand. I sought out men who were brilliant in their craft, chemists, engineers, financiers. I built teams of minds sharper than my own, and bound them to my vision. Alone I could have only been a wealthy man. With them I built a dynasty. If you wish to accelerate your income, you must accelerate your associations. Who you stand beside determines how high you will rise. Let us not forget reputation. Your name is currency. In business, trust is leverage. I was relentless in ensuring my word was honored, my contracts fulfilled, my debts paid. Men knew that dealing with Rockefeller meant certainty, and certainty attracts capital. Capital attracts opportunity. Opportunity attracts empire. If your word is weak, your empire will crumble. If your word is iron, doors open before you even knock. Remember this: wealth is not sudden. It may appear sudden to outsiders, but beneath the surface lies years of invisible work, discipline, patience, reinvestment, strategy. By the time the fortune appears, the foundation has already been built, brick by brick, unseen by the world. Do not be deceived by appearances. The man who wishes to turn his yearly income into his monthly income must be willing to labor in silence until the structure is unshakable. So write it down: every cent, every expense, every plan. Do not let your money slip away like water through open fingers. Command it, multiply it, deploy it. And when the time comes, when your systems are in motion, when compounding has taken root, you will look back on the days of wages and realize they were only the prologue. The true story begins when your wealth no longer comes from your hands, but from the empire you constructed to work in your place. There is a great misconception among men that wealth comes from chasing money. They run after opportunities like children chasing butterflies, never catching them, never understanding that butterflies land where the garden is prepared. I never chased money. I prepared myself, my businesses, my systems, so thoroughly that money had no choice but to flow in my direction. If you wish to elevate your income from yearly to monthly, you must cease being a pursuer and instead become a magnet. How does a man become a magnet for wealth? Through value. The world rewards not labor alone, but value delivered at scale. A laborer delivers value to one employee. A business owner delivers value to thousands, even millions. The scale is what transforms yearly wages into monthly streams. I did not become wealthy because I worked harder than others. I became wealthy because I provided light for entire cities, fuel for entire industry. The scale of value was immense, and therefore the scale of reward was immense. Look closely at your efforts. Are they confined to one set of hands, one set of hours, one narrow stream, or can they be multiplied, duplicated, expanded far beyond your present? If you bake a loaf of bread, you feed a family. If you own the ovens, the mills, and the distribution, you feed nations. And with each level of scale, your income multiplies. That is the difference between the man who earns modestly each year and the man who multiplies that sum each month. Another principle is efficiency. Many men attempt to grow by doing more, adding more, scattering their energy. That is not mastery. I mastered efficiency. I demanded that every process be examined, every waste eliminated, every improvement adopted. In my refineries, nothing was discarded. Even byproducts others threw away, we found uses for paraffin, lubricants, even gasoline eventually found its place. Waste became wealth. Understand this: the careless man loses half his fortune in inefficiency, while the disciplined man doubles his fortune by extracting value others overlook. Do not overlook the power of integration. Most businesses are fragile because they depend on others for critical links. They buy their materials from one ship through another, sell through a third. At any point, the chain can break. I refused to depend on the whims of others. I integrated. I owned the wells, the refineries, the pipelines, the rail cars, even the marketing. From the ground to the lamp in your home, Standard Oil controlled the entire journey. This gave me leverage beyond measure. My income could multiply not because I controlled a fragment, but because I commanded the whole. If you seek to elevate your income, you must think the same. Where in your enterprise can you capture the entire chain? Where can you eliminate dependency and build dominant? Power also comes from positioning. Most men fight in crowded markets, competing on scraps. I sought positions where I could dominate. I avoided battles that drained resources, and instead secured ground that no one else could easily take. This is not mere business, it is war strategy. The general does not march blindly into combat. He studies terrain, secures supply lines, flanks his enemy. In wealth, the battlefield is markets, and the victors are those who position themselves before the masses even realize where the battle will be fought. If you wish to multiply income, you must not merely participate, you must position. Now I will speak of reputation again, but in another sense, authority. Authority makes men follow you, invest in you, and partner with you without hesitation. My authority did not come from boasting, but from results. People saw my discipline, my consistency, my command of detail. They respected it, even feared it. When you build authority, opportunities seek you out, investors trust you, partners align with you, competitors hesitate before crossing you. Authority compresses time. For what would take others years to gain, authority secures in months. This is one of the invisible ways a man transforms yearly income into monthly income. Yet understand this, all the systems, all the strategies, all the efficiency mean little if the mind is weak. A man must be unshakable. Pressure will test you, setbacks will come, critics will howl. I remained composed because I trained my mind to expect resistance. Every disappointment was data, every failure a lesson. While others despaired, I adapted. That is why my growth was relentless. The man who panics at obstacles will never compress his income, for he will abandon the path at the first sign of difficulty. But the man who remains calm in chaos controls the game. You must also learn the art of silence. I revealed little, spoke less, and let my actions thunder where my words whispered. Men who announce their plans invite resistance. Men who move quietly strike before others can react. That is why secrecy, patience, and quiet execution are so powerful. They shorten the distance to victory. While others argue and posture, you are already winning. If you wish to multiply your income, learn to work in silence, and let the results speak so loudly that no one can deny them. Finally, I remind you that wealth is not simply money. It is independence, it is power, it is freedom from the chains that bind most men, the need to ask permission, the need to bow to employers, the need to live within ceilings set by others. Turning your yearly income into your monthly income is not about extravagance, it is about liberation. It is about taking control of your destiny, so that no man can dictate the terms of your life. I built such freedom not by luck, not by chance, but by desire. You too can build it, if you are willing to discipline your mind, command your money, build systems, scale value, master efficiency, and position yourself for dominance. Few will walk this path, but those who do, will live as few ever can. And when your monthly income surpasses the yearly wages of others, you will finally understand the real wealth is not the money itself, it is the mastery of the principles that produced it.
Criticism follows success like a shadow follows the body. When I began to rise, I discovered quickly that men do not hate failure. They hate the sight of another man succeeding where they could not. They whisper, they slander, they invent stories. But you must not let the words of small men dictate the course of a great destiny. If you wish to lift your income from yearly to monthly, you must learn to master criticism as I did, by using it as fuel rather than chains. Most people crumble at the first sign of disapproval. A friend doubts them, a family member mocks them, a competitor laughs at them, and they retreat. Their confidence evaporates, their ambition folds. But what is criticism truly? It is nothing more than noise, words, sounds produced by those who do not walk your path and cannot see your vision. Why would you allow such sounds to dictate your future? When others spoke against me, I smiled. Their words were powerless unless I granted them power, and by denying them, I remained untouched. There are two kinds of criticism, the kind that is useful and the kind that is worthless. The useful kind comes from those who know more than you, who wish to sharpen you, who have built what you are trying to build. Their words may sting, but their truth can refine you. That kind you must welcome, for it saves you from mistakes and accelerates your path. The worthless kind, however, comes from the uninformed, the envious, the idle. They criticize not from wisdom, but from weakness. That kind you must discard without a second thought. To give it your attention is to drain your energy into a bottomless pit. When I was building my empire, newspapers attacked me, rivals cursed me, politicians scrutinized me. If I had spent my time answering each insult, I would have built nothing. Instead, I let my work stand as my answer. While they wasted ink, I refined oil. While they argued, I expanded pipelines. While they spoke of fairness, I secured dominance. When wealth multiplied, their criticism sounded hollow even to themselves. Remember this: silence in the face of worthless criticism is the loudest response. Do not mistake composure for weakness. To remain calm while others attack is not submission, it is strength. The man who reacts in anger shows that he is rattled, that he can be controlled by another's words. The man who remains still, unshaken, demonstrates power. People respect what they cannot disturb. When you rise high enough, every insult becomes a compliment in disguise, proof that your success has drawn attention. Let me give you a picture. Imagine a sculptor carving a statue. Passers-by comment, some praising, some ridiculing. Does the sculptor stop his work to argue? No, he continues chiseling, for he knows that when the figure is revealed, the same mouths that mocked will stand in awe. You must be the sculptor of your fortune. Let the critics chatter while you shape your empire. In the end, the results will silence them all. Another danger of criticism is that it breeds self-doubt. The voices outside begin to echo within. A man starts asking himself, what if they are right? What if I fail? This is poison. Doubt is the assassin of destiny. I banished it by anchoring myself to vision. I knew what I wanted. I saw it so clearly that no words could obscure it. When you are rooted in a strong vision, criticism cannot uproot you. Build that vision so firmly in your mind that it becomes more real than the noise around you. Understand this too: if you are not criticized, you are not doing anything remarkable. The man who remains invisible, unambitious, unnoticed, he escapes criticism, but he also escapes greatness. Criticism is proof of movement. The louder it becomes, the higher you are climbing. Do not resent it, wear it as a badge. When they speak against you, know you are on the right track. The world has never cheered unanimously for progress. Every innovator was ridiculed before he was revered. There is also opportunity in criticism. Sometimes your enemy reveals your weakness more clearly than your ally. I often learned from the attacks against me. A rival would point out an inefficiency, thinking to harm me, and I would quietly correct it, strengthening my position. This is the art: to listen without absorbing, to analyze without internalizing. Take what is useful, discard the rest, and move on stronger than before. But above all, never let the fear of criticism prevent action. Most men live in cages built not of iron but of opinion. They crave approval so much that they do nothing daring, nothing bold, nothing that might provoke judgment. In seeking to be liked, they guarantee they will remain small. I chose instead to be respected, and respect does not come from pleasing, it comes from achieving. Those who wish to multiply their income must abandon the childish need for universal approval. Think of this carefully. You want to turn a yearly income into a monthly one. Do you imagine you will accomplish that by following the path of the timid, by avoiding offense, by seeking applause? No, you will achieve it by pursuing greatness, so boldly that resistance is inevitable. Do not fear that resistance. Embrace it. It is the crucible that will forge your strength. When the voices rise against you, and they will remember that you are building something they cannot see, something greater than their imaginations can comprehend. Hold your composure, hold your focus, and let your work thunder where their words whisper. Critics fade, empires endure, and when your monthly income eclipses what they struggle for in a year, their criticism will seem like nothing more than the faint noise of insects in the night. Pressure is the great revealer. It strips away pretense and exposes the core of a man. Some collapse beneath it, others panic, many retreat, but a rare few remain steady, their composure unbroken, their minds clear while chaos rages. If you wish to transform your yearly income into your monthly income, you must learn to be among the rare few who thrive under pressure rather than break from it. You cannot avoid pressure. Growth invites it. Opportunity demands. Every time you stretch beyond the ordinary, you will encounter resistance, uncertainty, setbacks. The laborer believes he can escape this by staying small, by clinging to security, yet even he is tested. He fears dismissal, illness, changing markets. Pressure is universal. The difference lies in whether you face it prepared or unprepared. I chose preparation, and because of that, while others panicked, I advanced. Consider war. A seasoned general does not expect peace on the battlefield. He anticipates ambushes, supply shortages, losses. He rehearses them in his mind before they occur so that when they arrive, he is calm, deliberate, decisive. Business is no different. I expected obstacles, expected rivals, expected downturns. Because I prepared for them, they never surprised me. And a man who cannot be surprised cannot be shaken. That is how I endured storms that broke other empires. Calmness under pressure is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. The man who rages, who despairs, who lashes out, wastes his energy where it serves no purpose. I saved my strength for decision. Every moment of composure gave me an advantage, for while my rivals drowned in fear, I studied the field and moved with precision. It is in moments of crisis that the gap between men widens most. The timid retreat, the rash stumble, the calm ascend. Think of the oil market. Prices rose and fell like tides. Fortunes were made and lost overnight. Men cried out in despair when the market collapsed. I did not. I expanded. While others sold assets in fear, I bought them at a fraction of their worth. I welcomed the storm because I had trained myself not to fear it. That is why my empire grew when others dwindled. The man who can remain calm when wealth contracts will soon hold more wealth than anyone else. To train this composure, you must practice detachment. When events unfold, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, does this truly endanger me, or is it only a test of my patience? In most cases, the panic others feel is unnecessary. A delay, a setback, a harsh word, none of these can destroy you unless you allow them to. By withholding your immediate reaction, you give yourself the power of choice. You choose strategy over impulse, logic over chaos. Another practice is rehearsal. Imagine the worst before it comes. Picture failure, betrayal, market collapse. Feel the discomfort now in your mind, so that when it arrives in reality, it is no stranger to you. This is not pessimism, it is preparation. I often imagined losing everything, and because I rehearsed that loss, I never feared it. The man who fears nothing cannot be manipulated. He cannot be cornered. He always has room to maneuver. Pressure will test not only your patience but your stamina. It will ask, how long can you endure? Most men quit too soon. They misjudge time. They imagine challenges will vanish quickly, and when they persist, they surrender. But the man who endures longer gains the field by default. When others have exhausted themselves, he remains. That persistence is often the true difference between success and failure. My empire did not emerge in a day. It emerged because I refused to collapse in the long nights when others surrendered. There is also strategy in embracing pressure rather than resisting it. A river does not shatter rocks by force. It flows around them, persistent, unbothered, until the rocks themselves wear down. Pressure is the same. If you resist it, you grow exhausted. If you flow with it, you outlast it. Do not demand that life remove obstacles. Expect them, adapt to them, and move forward regardless. That is the discipline of the unshakable mind. When you master composure under pressure, people notice. In meetings, in negotiations, in crises, the man who remains calm becomes the anchor others cling to. His voice carries more weight because it is not rattled. His decisions are trusted because they are not clouded by fear. That authority multiplies influence, and influence multiplies opportunity. This is one of the unseen ways composure transforms income. While others lose months in panic, you move forward steadily, compressing years of progress into weeks. Do not think this is merely philosophy. It is a weapon. Imagine a negotiation where your opponent is desperate, emotional, demanding. You remain silent, measured, patient. With every outburst, he weakens his position. With every moment of your calm, your leverage increases. Eventually, he concedes, not because you argued louder, but because you refused to be moved. That is power. That is how calmness translates directly into wealth. So when you feel pressure building, when circumstances tighten, when critics attack, when opportunities tremble on the edge of collapse, remind yourself, this is the proving ground. This is the test that separates those who earn a modest wage once a year from those who command fortunes every month. Pressure is not your enemy, it is your forge. It will burn away weakness and leave only strength, if you allow it. I endured pressure greater than most men can imagine, and because I endured it calmly, it became my ally. It revealed my rival's weakness. It amplified my own strength. It multiplied my wealth. Do not curse the pressure you face. Welcome it. For every ounce of composure you gain under strain, your capacity to build, to command, to multiply your fortune increases. And soon, you will discover what I discovered. Pressure is not the barrier to greatness. It is the
Suffering comes most often not from what happens to a man, but from his refusal to accept it. We cling to outcomes, to expectations, to the belief that life must bend to our desires, and when it does not, we feel pain. Yet the truth is simple. Control is an illusion. You cannot dictate the tides. You cannot command the winds. What you can command is yourself. If you wish to lift your yearly income into your monthly income, you must master the art of letting go, detachment from what cannot be controlled, focus on what can. I learnt early that markets rise and fall, that men break promises, that governments change laws, that accidents appear without warning. Most men rail against such things, cursing fortune, wasting energy on resistance. I did not. I accepted reality as it came. When oil prices collapsed, I did not weep. I asked, what can be done with this? When a rival undercut me, I did not rage. I studied him, adapted, positioned myself anew. Detachment freed me to move forward when others were paralyzed. Imagine a river. It does not demand that rocks move aside for its passage. It flows around them, over them, patient, persistent, unstoppable. That is how you must live. You cannot command every obstacle to vanish, but you can decide not to be halted by them. The man who insists life obey his every wish becomes fragile. The man who flows with reality becomes indestructible. That is why I tell you, if you wish to compress a year's worth of wealth into a month, stop wasting time resisting what cannot be changed. Adapt, redirect, continue. Letting go is not weakness. It is strength. Weakness is clinging, begging the world to bend to you. Strength is saying, do as you will, world, I will find another way. When you release the need for control, you gain control over yourself. And that is the only control that matters. The calm man sees clearly. The detached man acts wisely. The world cannot shake a man who no longer insists it behave a certain way. But let us speak of how this relates to wealth. Many men attach their happiness to specific results. A deal closing, a client agreeing, an investment performing. When those outcomes falter, they collapse emotionally. In their collapse, they make poor decisions. They sell at the bottom, they abandon good ventures, they panic. I never allowed myself such fragility. My joy, my composure were never tied to a single outcome. If one door closed, another was found. If one deal failed, a greater one was pursued. That is why my growth was relentless. Detachment kept me moving when others stalled. You must train yourself in this discipline. When you face a disappointment, pause. Ask, is this within my control? If yes, act with strategy. If no, release it instantly. Do not rehearse the loss in your mind. Do not replay the insult. Do not gnaw on the closed door. That is wasted energy, and wasted energy is wasted wealth. Redirect every drop of it toward what lies within your grasp. You will discover that progress accelerates when you are no longer chained to the uncontrollable. Letting go also frees you from the prison of other people's opinions. Most men are ruled not by their own goals but by the imagined judgments of others. They seek approval. They fear rejection. They cling to validation. This is slavery. I never sought to be liked. I sought to be effective. Some admired me, others despised me. Both groups were irrelevant to my progress. The only voice that mattered was the vision within. When you let go of the need for approval, your decisions sharpen. You no longer dilute your path to satisfy the crowd. You move with clarity, and clarity multiplies results.
Another dimension of letting go is releasing attachment to the past. Many men carry failures like stones on their back, replaying them endlessly, suffocating their future with yesterday's mistakes. I carried nothing. When something ended, I recorded the lesson, and I moved on untouched. My ledger was clear. That is why I could seize opportunities others overlooked. They were too busy staring backward. You cannot build tomorrow if your eyes are locked on yesterday. Let go, and the road ahead becomes visible. Do not mistake detachment for apathy. I cared deeply about my enterprises, my people, my goals, but I did not suffer when circumstances changed, because my identity was not chained to them. I could act with passion while holding outcomes loosely. This is balance, to engage fully, without being destroyed by disappointment. That balance is rare, and it is what allows wealth to grow without being consumed by the turbulence of emotion. Think of the greatest builders, the greatest leaders. Did they demand that life give them ease? No, they accepted storms as part of the journey, and they advanced regardless. That is why their names endure. The man who resists reality breaks himself against it. The man who adapts flows beyond it. The second man will always outlast the first. So when a setback comes, and it will ask yourself, am I clinging, or am I flowing? Every moment you cling, you lose time. Every moment you flow, you gain ground. Wealth loves speed, and speed is only possible when you are not shackled to what you cannot change. That is how detachment multiplies fortune. Let go of the uncontrollable. Let go of the need for approval. Let go of yesterday. In the silence of that release, you will find a strength most men never touch. And in that strength you will discover the secret to compressing years into months. The freedom to act without fear, to move without hesitation, to advance without being trapped by illusion. Detachment is not escape, it is mastery. And mastery is the foundation of empires. Noise is the language of the ordinary. Men chatter endlessly, boasting of their plans, defending their choices, filling the air with words that mean little and achieve nothing. I learned early that silence is not emptiness. It is strategy. Silence unsettles. Silence conceals. Silence shifts power into your hands. If you wish to elevate your income so that what others labor a year to earn becomes your monthly flow, you must master the art of silence. When I entered negotiations, I rarely spoke first. I listened. I observed. I let others reveal themselves, their anxieties, their weaknesses, their desperation. Most men cannot endure silence. It burns them. They rush to fill it with concessions, explanations, bargains. I let them talk until their own words betrayed them. Then when I finally spoke, it was deliberate, precise and final. This is how silence multiplies power. It forces others to spend themselves while you can. In business, reputation is built not only by what you do, but by what you choose not to say. I never announced my strategies. Rivals speculated, competitors scrambled, reporters guessed. While they wasted time trying to predict me, I was already executed. By the time they discovered my move, it was too late. That is the advantage of silence. It makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is a fortress. The man who reveals everything invites attack. The man who reveals nothing strikes from the shadows. Even in conflict, silence is a weapon. When accused, I rarely defended myself publicly. I let critics exhaust themselves shouting into the wind, while I remained unmoved. Their voices lost power, because they were never answered. In time, the results spoke louder than any argument could. Critics fade. Achievements endure. Silence starves your enemies. When you do not feed them with reaction, they wither. Consider too the personal discipline silence demands. To remain quiet when your pride urges you to speak. To withhold when your ego demands recognition. This is mastery. Most men sabotage themselves, not because they lack opportunity, but because they cannot restrain their tongue. They reveal their weaknesses, their fears, their plans. Without realizing they are arming their rivals. I learned that every unnecessary word was a liability. My silence protected me, more than arguments ever could. Let us connect this to wealth. Imagine two men. One spends his energy boasting of his ambitions, arguing with critics, announcing every step. He is drained before the true work begins. The other keeps silent, conserving strength, building quietly, striking without warning. Which man do you think multiplies his income faster? The second. Always, wealth grows in shadows nourished by patience and secrecy. By the time it is visible, it is already too strong to be opposed. Silence also sharpens perception. When you are not busy speaking, you notice, you see the flicker of doubt in a rival's eye, the hesitation in a partner's voice, the eagerness in a buyer's tone. These details are invisible to the talker, but obvious to the listener, and in those details lies advantage. I won battles before they began simply because I noticed what others did not, and I noticed because I was silent. Do not think silence means passivity. On the contrary, it is active strategy. It is patience weaponized. When others reveal, you can see. When others rush, you wait. When others demand, you observe. Then when the moment is right, your words or your actions strike with precision. This rhythm of silence and sudden execution is how empires are built. Most men fear silence because it exposes them to themselves. Alone with quiet, they feel their doubts, their insecurities, their restless need for validation. I did not fear it. I embraced it. Silence gave me clarity. It allowed me to think deeply, to see connections invisible in the noise of chatter. That clarity was worth more than any applause. If you wish to ascend, you must learn to be comfortable in silence, to let it sharpen your mind until your thoughts cut sharper than any sword. There is a saying, the loudest in the room is the weakest. I found it true. Loudness is often a mask for insecurity, a desperate attempt to convince others or oneself of strength. Real power is quiet. Real confidence does not announce itself. It simply is. When I walked into a room, I did not need to shout. My composure, my silence spoke louder than any declaration, and men responded to it, often without realizing why. So I tell you this: stop explaining yourself, stop announcing your moves, stop wasting energy on noise. Every word should serve a purpose, and if it does not, it should not be spoken. In your restraint lies your power, in your silence lies your leverage, and in your discipline lies the speed with which you can compress what takes others a year into what takes you a month. Build quietly, move silently, let the results arrive without warning, and watch as the world scrambles to understand how you did it. They will wonder, they will speculate, but they will never truly know, and that mystery will guard your power better than any fortress. Silence is not emptiness. It is the deepest form of strength. Master it, and you master not only your fortune, but your...
The mind is the true battlefield. Before a man can build wealth, before he can multiply his income, he must first conquer himself. I have seen strong bodies crumble, clever men fail, talented men squander their gifts, all because their minds were undisciplined. If you wish to elevate your yearly income into your monthly income, you must train your mind as a warrior trains his sword, daily, deliberately, until it becomes unbreakable. Most people are slaves to their thoughts. A moment of doubt enters, and they retreat. A whisper of fear arises, and they freeze. A spark of anger ignites, and they lash out foolishly. They do not realize that thoughts are not commands. They are visitors. You decide whether to let them rule. I learned to treat my mind like a fortress. No fear could storm its gates without my permission. No doubt could linger unless I allowed it. That control gave me an advantage greater than capital, greater than connections, greater than luck. How do you train such control? Through discipline. Discipline is the foundation of every fortune. I rose not because I was the loudest or the most gifted, but because I was disciplined in small things. I woke early, I worked consistently, I kept my word, I tracked every cent in my ledger. These habits hardened my mind. They told me that no matter the storm, I could rely on myself. That reliability became confidence. And confidence, when multiplied by discipline, becomes power. Gratitude was another weapon. When doubt whispered that I was not yet where I wanted to be, gratitude reminded me of how far I had come. When fear warned me of loss, gratitude pointed to what was still in my hand. Gratitude steadies the mind. It shifts focus from scarcity to abundance, and abundance attracts more abundance.
Most men complain of what they lack and wonder why wealth avoids them. I gave thanks, and more was given. Train your mind to see what is present, not only what is absent. Detachment also strengthened me. I reminded myself daily, outcomes are uncertain. Setbacks inevitable. This is no cause for despair. It is simply the nature of life. By detaching, I freed myself from being ruled by success or failure. If I succeeded, I pressed forward. If I failed, I learned and pressed forward. The pace of progress quickens when the mind is not paralyzed by either victory or defeat. Detachment keeps you moving. Movement builds momentum. Momentum compounds wealth. Another practice, rehearsal. I rehearsed difficulties before they came. I imagined crises, betrayals, collapses. I asked, what will I do if this happens? And I prepared my response. So when it did happen, I did not waste time in shock. My mind was ready. This habit gave me calm when others panicked. Calmness is not natural, it is trained. Train yourself, and while others drown in fear, you will breathe deeply and act. Reading also fortified me. I consumed knowledge, histories, philosophies. I studied markets, studied men, studied the past. Knowledge expands vision. The ignorant man is bound by what he sees. The knowledgeable man sees beyond the horizon. And when you can see farther, you can move sooner. This too is how you multiply income, by positioning before the masses arrive. Your mind must be filled, not with noise but with wisdom. Understand this clearly. The mind is like a muscle. It grows not in comfort but in resistance. Each time you resist fear, you strengthen courage. Each time you resist anger, you strengthen composure. Each time you resist laziness, you strengthen discipline. Most men avoid resistance. I sought it, I welcomed it, for I knew that each act of mental resistance forged an unshakable core, and with that core, no storm could topple me. You must also master self-talk. What do you tell yourself in silence? Do you repeat doubts, or do you affirm strength? Do you feed fear, or do you remind yourself of victories past? I reminded myself daily, I am disciplined, I am steady, I am capable. These words were not vanity, they were commands to my mind. And over time, the mind obeys the words you give it. Feed it weakness, and it becomes weak. Feed it strength, and it becomes strong. The greatest wealth is inner calm. Without it, money destroys men. With it, money multiplies. You cannot hope to handle fortunes if you panic at setbacks, if you despair at criticism, if you collapse under stress. But if your mind is trained, grateful, disciplined, detached, fortified, you can handle rivers of wealth with the same composure as drops of it. That is why I tell you, before you command money, command your mind. So begin now. Rise earlier than you wish. Hold your silence when you wish to speak. Push forward when you wish to quit. Write down your goals daily. Thank the world for what you already have. Visualize yourself calm in storms. Study relentlessly. Resist comfort. Each small act seems insignificant, but together they forge steel. And when the mind is steel, fortune bends to it. One day, others will marvel at your calm, your confidence, your composure. They will ask how you remain unbothered when storms rage. You will know the answer, because you trained for this, because you built your mind before you built your fortune, and because of that, you now live what others thought impossible. A life where 1 month brings what once took a year. The unshakable mind makes the impossible inevitable. Real power does not march through the streets with banners and noise. Real power does not beg for recognition, does not cry out for applause, does not explain itself to the world. Real power moves quietly, strategically, and only reveals itself when the results are undeniable. If you wish to multiply your income until 1 month surpasses what others strain for in a year, you must learn this final lesson. Mastery lies in moving in silence. I never announced my plans. Rivals speculated endlessly. Journalists tried to pry. Competitors watched every move, but they saw only fragments, never the whole design. By the time they understood what I had built, it was already too late. Standard Oil was not declared into existence. It was constructed, piece by piece, silently, relentlessly. until its presence was unavoidable. That is how you must build your fortune. Without noise, without fanfare, without the vanity of showing the world what you are about to do. Consider what happens when a man announces his intentions. He invites doubt, he invites resistance, he gives his rivals time to prepare. Worse still, he begins to feel satisfied with the applause of promises rather than the substance of results. Many men waste their ambition on talk. They gain a moment's admiration, but never create lasting achievement. Talk exhausts energy. Execution creates empires. That is why I withheld my words and focused my strength on action. Silence is not inaction. It is the mask beneath which your work grows. While others are busy seeking attention, you are busy laying foundations. While they postulate, you acquire. While they explain, you execute. And when the time comes, when the structure has risen, the markets have shifted, the income has multiplied, your silence will break not with noise but with undeniable dominance. That is the language of power, results. Ask yourself this: why do you feel the urge to announce your plans? It is vanity, the hunger for recognition, the fear of being unseen. Strip yourself of that weakness. You need no recognition, you need no permission, you need only results. When I withheld my intentions, men underestimated me. They thought me quiet, timid, perhaps even unremarkable. But in my silence I gained the greatest advantage of all: time. Time to move unseen, time to position, time to prepare, and when my strike came, it was overwhelming. This principle applies to wealth as much as to war. The man who boasts of his investments invites scrutiny and envy. The man who quietly compounds his capital grows unnoticed until his position is unassailable. The man who brags of future success rarely achieves it. The man who builds quietly achieves beyond the imagination of those who mocked his silence. Silence multiplies effectiveness because it removes distraction. When you do not explain yourself, you waste nothing. All of your energy flows into execution. Understand too the psychological force of silence. It creates mystery. Men fear what they cannot read. Rivals stumble trying to predict what they cannot see. Partners respect what they cannot easily define. Silence makes you an enigma, and in that enigma lies power. When others are busy reacting to appearances, you are busy directing reality. When they try to guess your next move, you are already 3 steps ahead. I tell you again, the loudest men are rarely the most powerful. They are performers, seeking validation. The truly powerful are often invisible until the moment of triumph. Do not confuse attention with strength. Attention is fleeting. Strength endures. Build strength and attention will follow without your effort, and when it does, it will be the right kind of attention, the kind that bows before results it cannot deny. Think of the tree. It grows quietly beneath the soil, unseen, its roots spreading deep, no one notices. But one day it towers above all, unmovable, undeniable. Did it need to announce its growth? No, it simply grew. So it must be with your fortune. Build beneath the surface, quietly, steadily, until what you have created cannot be ignored. By then it will be too late for anyone to oppose you. When I walked into rooms, I did not speak much. But when I did, men listened. Why? Because silence gave weight to my words. If you speak constantly, your words become cheap. If you reserve them, each sentence carries force. This is another form of moving in silence, not only in action, but in speech. Choose your words with precision. Let your silence speak until the moment arrives when your voice is needed. Then let it strike like iron. In your pursuit of wealth, discipline your tongue, discipline your pride. Build your empire with your hands, not your voice. Let your results stand as your argument, your defense, your announcement. The world will always chatter. Let it You must be above it, moving quietly, moving deliberately, until your success overshadows their noise, and when at last your income multiplies, when your monthly gain surpasses what once seemed the labor of a year, you will understand why I teach this. It was not talk that brought me here, it was silence. Silence filled with planning, with work, with execution, and now you too know the truth. The most powerful move is often no move at all until the perfect moment arrives. Then when you act, the world cannot resist. So do not boast, do not announce, do not waste your strength proving yourself to those unworthy of your vision. Move quietly, build relentlessly, strike decisively, and let your empire speak for you. For in the end words fade, critics vanish, applause dies, but results remain. That is true power. That is how you turn a yearly income into a monthly one, and that is how you master, not only wealth, but life itself.